Hi, and welcome to Curious Conversations, the podcast where curiosity meets connection. Thanks for joining as we discuss captivating stories and ideas and engage in thought-provoking conversations with experts, enthusiasts, and everyday people. We hope to ignite a curious spirit as we embark on a quest for understanding, one curious conversation at a time. So let's jump in this together. Welcome to the world of Curious Conversations. Hello and welcome to Curious Conversations. We are your hosts, Carly and Mandy, and today we are talking about stalking, and specifically the original Netflix series that is titled Baby Reindeer.
Yeah, okay. So I know I have a lot to say, and I'm sure you do too. But I need to ask you a couple of things first.
All right.
All right. One, have you ever had a stalker?
Oh, no.
Oh, well, maybe you've been the stalker. Is that it?
I mean, I've done a little snooping.
Okay.
It might have been borderline stalking.
Yeah, how does that where's the divide there? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
right. There's got to be
Yeah.
some boundaries.
Yeah, you think of stalking as like, a romantic relationship going bad or somebody interested in the other person's not, but maybe snooping is stalking.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a point. I don't really know where that threshold is where it's like, oops, I overstepped those
Yeah.
boundaries.
I don't know. I think somebody might let you know.
Yeah,
Right?
right. What about you? Stalked or stalker?
Okay. So my personality type tends to lean a little more towards pursuer, not pursued, just naturally. But nothing over the top, of course. Wink wink. Nothing crazy. I don't do any crazy. As far as being stalked though, um, you know, there's that occasional person, no names, that just pop up, on social media, and you're like, where in the world did you come from? And I'm not even talking about the fake ones. I'm just talking about the ones that are sort of fishing and they're just pushing, and they're not. You can tell it's gonna go in that way if you give them any, line. So yeah, I want to stay away from that. That's not. It's scary. You don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I
don't think that's
mean, and
stalking, but
yeah, I think there's a fine line between like stalking and trolling too.
yep.
So you got to kind of understand the context of those two things and try to figure out what kind of situation you're in because there are a lot of internet trolls, and they're just out there to make somebody mad.
Yeah, I just can't imagine like stalking somebody I didn't know at all. If it's like, somebody did you wrong, you feel like you didn't get the last word, there's somebody you just can't stand that they're not in your life. Like I can kind of get on board and see, not that it's right, but I can see that, but just blindly or like how people stalk famous people. What is that?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, that's weird. They're the
Mm.
weird ones.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so number 2 question is, did you enjoy the series?
I really did. I did.
Yeah.
I think that it was done in an entertaining way. They hit it out of the park with the cast, and I know we're going to talk about that a little, but they did a really great job setting up those scenes so that you're always kind of on the edge of your seat. Did
Yeah,
you feel that way?
I did, and surprised. Like it's a little hard to surprise me sometimes. But yeah, I was surprised with where the story went and how I felt about the characters.
Right. And that got me too. I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to hate certain things and like certain things, and my emotions were all over the place. I was conflicted, very conflicted.
Yeah. Yeah, and we started talking like we both saw this like right when it came out, and we talked about it several times, and like we're going to do this. We've got to do a podcast. So, you know, since we decided to talk about stalking, this is the obvious, this is what's being talked about right now. in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, sure.
So I know
Absolutely.
we're gonna touch on like each of these things, but a little info on the Netflix show. So it's a story about, I would say, the complications and the cost of obsession. Isn't kind of how you would the
Mm,
blurbage there? So there's been a lot of talk, as we said, and in order to open up candidly about our thoughts and cover the topic fully, I do want to state that there's going to be several spoilers in this week's episode for this. So please take that into consideration, everybody, if you have not yet watched the series. Don't run it for yourself.
yeah, I think if you've not watched it, hit the pause button and go binge it. It
Yep.
really is good. And we're, I don't feel like we could do it justice to talk about it without some spoilers, so for sure.
Yeah, me neither. And like everything else that we talk about, this is our take. It's the information, but it's our take on the story. These are our opinions, how it settled with us, and which is one of my favorite things is that we get to talk about how each thing affects us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before we dive in, we want to share with you this week's curious dish. So, this is the part of the show where we dish about the most curious thing that we have seen this week. Mandy, what you got for us?
Okay, I'll warn you, this is gross. This is a gross one.
Okay. All right.
Well, it grosses me out when I think about it because it was a personal experience. But okay, so I like to go walking, and I usually go walking like once the sun's starting to go down a little bit in the summer, because I want to dodge that direct heat. And you know
Mm-hmm.
how sometimes you're on a trail or something, and there's like the swarm of bugs that just, there's like a little cloud of bugs.
Yes.
I hate that. And they get in your eyes and you think you're going blind and this feels like they're stinging you. And anyway, I sometimes talk on the phone like the first part of my walk, and then I'm just like in thought the second half. So I'm talking as I do, just running my mouth, and I'm just like instantly choked. And I'm like, oh my God, you swallowed a bug. You have swallowed a bug. And it doesn't feel like one of those tiny swarmers. It feels, it feels like a big bug. So I'm like, I mean, I start feeling like I'm gonna throw up. Like I'm coughing and coughing, and I can feel that feeling. And I'm just like, then I'm thinking, is this okay? What kind of bug was this? And because it didn't feel like tiny, but anyway, I finally coughed and I'm like, okay, I'm good. You know. So I walk my walk, and I usually walk close to like 45 minutes to an hour. I'm back home. I, eat dinner, hanging out, and then I'm on the couch and I get choked again. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm drinking something, So I think I'm good. I'm getting this choke feeling, and I start coughing and coughing. Then I feel something in my mouth. No joke. No joke. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. I've never done this in my life. And I pull
Oh,
that sucker out, and it is fairly small. But when I lay that out, it has legs and a head. And it is sure enough a bug, the bug that from like 2 hours before. Now, what happened? Did it like cling on the way down? What happened with this bug?
it just found somewhere to hang out for a little while.
The grossest thing probably I've ever done. And I mean, I'm looking at that like I'm infested or something. But after that, I was clear from the cough. It was the bug hanging out with me.
You know
Crazy.
what? It, it came back up. That's pretty great, right?
It was dead.
Oh.
Very dead, but very much a bug. And so when I think about it, I still feel like it's there.
Yeah.
It's there with
Oh,
me.
absolutely. Yeah, I just want you're gonna have to go with the flow on it, like if it's
Ugh.
already in my throat, just go ahead and make the normal passage. Like
Oh yeah, I thought we
yeah.
processed this. I thought I got over the head trip of it and was just like, so you swallowed a bug, you're gonna live. But no, I, housed a bug for just a minute. I just
Yeah.
like, it just hung out there. Anyway, so gross. I can still feel that. And that's my weird one for right now. That was disgusting.
That's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, do you have something disgusting or something fun?
No, mine's fun. Mine is fun.
Okay.
I came across an article that was just it was heartwarming. It made me really happy to read. There is a gentleman that owns an arcade in Ohio. And he just made the Guinness World Record book. He didn't even know that he was going for it. So his daughter is the one that filled out the application. She put together a team, I believe it was some of his employees, to go in and count how many pinball machines this guy had. And so they had to catalog the machines, and a lot of them, I mean, they weren't all in the arcade, obviously. There were a lot in storage. And so they put together this contraption where they would open up the game, slide 4 legs on it, take a picture, and then take those legs off and move on to the next one. That was like, I guess, part of the qualifications of it. And so now Rob Burt is sitting in, the Guinness Book of World Records for a whopping 1,041 pinball machines.
What? Oh my
Isn't that
gosh.
crazy?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's that's a lot of pinball machines to be
How do
collecting.
you house all that? Like, I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. I don't know, but he must have a big giant warehouse he keeps all of that in. I don't know, but it paid off.
That's very cool. So I love pinball. Do you like pinball?
I do.
Okay. So, we have like an amazing pinball place close to us, and I don't think either of us have been there. Well, I've been there. Have you been there?
I've never been there.
Okay, but we haven't been
I
there
watched her
together.
live.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, these guys know their stuff. And I didn't know it
Yeah.
was a whole world. I just thought it was fun to, like, hit the balls and see the lights. I'm like a kid about it. The lights and their sounds and the images, and that's fun for me. There was like a whole science behind it. And I didn't even know there was a storyline on some of the games. So anyway, I didn't know if you had been in there yet or not, but I have not been back since I interviewed the owners, but they know their stuff, and that's a world out there, I guess. So they probably know who that is, but that's amazing.
They might. They might
Yeah.
know. I don't know. We'll have to go. We'll go try it out
Yes,
and see.
it's summer. That sounds like a summer thing to do. We need to go
Yep.
down there. Yeah. Okay. Well, yours is more fun than mine. Mine's just gross. Oh my gosh. So let's move right into this series because I want to say this was like one of my favorites that was based on a true story, maybe ever. It stuck with me in a lot of different ways. So I've heard it referred to as dark comedy, which I don't really see that. Heavy material for dark humor, but I've also just heard it's just like a dark drama series. Um, Whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, I thought it was very interesting and very layered. And there were some sort of humorous moments, like the way certain things were talked about in the verbiage, and which were parts that I loved.
Yeah, it was almost like I said, it was conflicting. You wanted to laugh at something because it was portrayed as comedy, but it's actually a very serious matter. Um, I thought that the actors involved did a fantastic job representing those characters, and they did make them entertaining, but you almost felt guilty for being entertained. Um,
Yeah.
but they just did that so well. They did a really good job. And you and I we've definitely covered our tracks as far as documentaries and docuseries go. And we've talked on here about several, different ones through our podcast and our series that we titled Docu Obsessed. So if you like documentaries, that's definitely something you want to go back and watch some of our Docu Obsessed because we cover some good ones. But we don't just, we're not just telling the basic storyline. We're talking about the stories behind the characters and doing some follow up on past stories and things like that. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and so this one's on Netflix, but I'm thinking maybe sometime we need to do like our favorite for each, excuse me, for each thing, like maybe Netflix, Hulu. Gosh, there's so many now that you can. Okay, this is what I do. I don't know if you do this. So like, I'll see something that I want to see. So I'll get a subscription for something for a little bit to get through that. But I'm notorious for forgetting it. So I don't even know what all I have at this time. But if we could pick like three, four, five, and then pick our favorites from those. And maybe they don't even match a category or a theme, but we just talk about, what's your favorite Netflix, maybe ever or current. I don't know. I think that's maybe something for the future.
I love it. I think that would be awesome. Fantastic.
Okay, so here's the deal. Back up. The main guy is Richard Gadd, and he is this comedian in real life and in the series. He's actually playing himself. Could you do that?
That I love that they used him for his own part. I think that helped him do such a great job. I think that's why he's so believable in the role. And he is just overall, he's an entertaining guy. I don't know that I could have done it, not to the level that he did. And I think that I would just get in my own head about the events that I'm trying to portray, and you just start to kind of overthink things. I don't know. I don't know if I could play my own part. I think that would be very intimidating. Um, what about you?
Yeah, so I thought about that too. When I first heard it was actually him that was playing him, I was like, how do you do that? That would be very hard for me, but I also think it would be hard to see an actor portraying you. I think it would be very weird, and you would want to say, "No, I didn't do it like that." Or, if they were very much like you, that would be sort of eerie, and it's like this surreal thing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, he nailed it, and I know he's supposed to be a comedian. His routines were a little wacky, and what I think he is skilled at is acting.
Yeah. Yeah, his you know, British comedy thing, yeah, could take it or leave it. But definitely the type of character that he was portraying, he hit I mean, it was spot on and could probably play a character like that in just about any genre film.
Yeah, so okay, so he's playing a version of himself called Donnie Dunn. And this is kind of switched now that there's the big stink about, what's real, what's not real, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But so now that I think that's the wording is he's playing a version of himself that's fictionalized, but I think it's pretty much him. I've read a lot of different things. There's conflicting information. There's, I almost like to just have my own takeaway. I hate it when every little bit of information is out there. I just want to feel what I felt about it. But it's a lot. But he's playing the part, and then excuse me, the actress Jessica Gunning is playing Martha Scott, who is supposedly the one who stalked him, and who we've also found out more recently is Fiona Harvey in real life. Again, supposedly, right? So
Yes.
what we're supposed to cover every single thing with?
Yeah, yeah, you always just say allegedly.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
allegedly, exactly. And I don't know. I can't say. I can't say. I've looked at everything since then, and I what do I know about it? But I do think that gets into tricky stuff. So we both write, and I always tell people that for myself, my opinion is you take some truth, you take some fiction, you shake it up, and you're hoping that the reader can't tell the difference, right?
Right. Right.
So if they can, what do you do?
Yeah, I thought that it was promoted as true, the entire story. It
Hmm.
just said this is a true story. So I mean, you've got a bout of events that are possibly somewhat fictionalized. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation from her, and she has her followers and fans and him and he has his, and it's easy to identify. I think they did a really good job of finding an actress that looks and acts a lot like the real Fiona Harvey. And so when you see the actress, you think, oh, well, yeah, there's definitely a correlation there. I mean, his original argument was no one would even know. If you hadn't have come forward, no one would know it was you that I was talking about. But yeah, I don't know that that's true. I think, people that knew them probably got to that conclusion very quickly. And with this being a Netflix thing and it's, all over, um, people start to speculate and they're looking at, his past and who he's been around. And, I think that Richard Gadd intended to protect the real identity of Martha, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, so I thought about that and I thought, if I were writing or telling a story or doing a series or anything about somebody, you know, it's respectful to try to hide that identity. But people are throwing stones from all sides, and one thing I've heard several times is that he should have done more. Netflix should have done more. So I'm wondering though, you take your life and your world and your circle of people, even 10, 20 years, don't you think that somebody could figure that out pretty easily? If you're talking about somebody, they acted like, oh, they could have never known. Why? Why could they? I mean, how many people did he have that stalked him?
Right.
He didn't talk about that at the time. Like he didn't mention that to a friend. Hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah, and there's the details were very close. The true to life details and him being a comedian that's struggling a little and working in a bar, they're just too similar.
Yeah, yeah, I could talk about people that have been in my life at different times, and unless I really changed a lot of different things, and even still, these days people can just start. Everybody's in everybody's business, so you could
Right.
just start weeding through, talking to people from his circle, and so I don't know if that was a little naivety on his part, or if he is like, well, I tried my best. I don't know. But maybe he was naive and thought, well, I didn't say it was her. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's got to be some responsibility too that falls to Netflix, and they
Yeah.
have due diligence that they're required. And so I don't know. I do feel like it was just very closely in line with Fiona and her character and who she is, and that has really become an issue for her.
Yeah. So I guess that was my thought about what he was saying that he tried to protect. Then my thought about Netflix, I think, what in the world are you doing? Because when you put a book out, if you're trying to cover, with all that legal verbiage that this is not somebody I know, this is based on, whatever. If you're saying it, so if you're putting a true story out there, you're saying it's based on that, or you're saying it is not based on that. You're covering that stuff up front. It's really bold to come forward and say this is a true story, and then start backpedaling. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, they definitely probably should have said based on true events or,
Why would they not?
something. I don't know. I don't know why they would have just put it out there as, hey, we're presenting this as fact. You've got to have proof if you're going to say something in a book. You and I know from the writing world, you've got to be able to prove it. There's got to be something to back it, not just you said so or you heard so, or, it's got to be a legal or, a way to prove something so that there is irreputable proof that it is true. I don't see how they would be able to prove a lot of those things, and from speaking with her, I've seen her speak on different shows after the fact. Um, she says a lot of what was given was not. It was not, it was an ill representation. She would say, I sent a couple of emails, but that wasn't even the main way that I spoke, and so it's like, well, can you prove that? Who can prove it in court? Because it's in court.
So he says that couple was over 41,000, which is
Yeah.
very different than a couple.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, their stories are so shockingly different. And emails, that's something that can be proven. You can pull those. So
Yeah, yeah, I mean, she was supposedly stalking him, and he claims the stalking. What he backs it up with is the 41,000 emails, 744 tweets, 100 pages of letters, and 350 hours of voicemail. She's been a little busy.
Yeah, if that is all true, that's crazy.
So then we talked about what is the line? That is crossing the line.
Yeah, that would definitely be crossing a line. But so I'll do like a little bit of an overview. So you've got Martha, who comes into a pub in London, and that is where Gad is working. Or I'm sorry, Donnie Dunn, I guess is
Sure.
his
In
name in
the
the
show.
show.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is. But Donnie Dunn is working in this pub, and Martha comes in and he offers her some tea and some sympathy, just a shoulder to cry on because she's upset about something. Um, she ends up, she likes that attention. She's drawn to that. She follows him home. She does start to I think she was reaching out more and more, and it wasn't necessarily wanted attention. I think the problem comes with the way it was handled, the way that, Donnie Dunn handled that attention. He didn't, it wasn't a hard stop. There was some part of him that was maybe equally as damaged as she was.
Mhm.
Um, so, I don't know. One can speculate and say, maybe it was not ever warranted. I'm not saying anyone has the right to stalk anyone else, but there might have been some confusion on, him putting it out there, taking it back, putting it out there, taking it back. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
So I read where Jessica Gunning, who plays Martha Scott, that what she said was, do you know she didn't even get any of the emails or hear anything ahead of time, like before she played this? She just played it
Oh,
out. Yeah, she was just given, I know, it's shocking. So she had said that she thought people were ready for messy stories. They're hungry for that. And that was my takeaway. I don't know, anything about what's really true or not, but I love that it was showing two people who could have been very stereotypical in the victim and the stalker, and the fact that he there was something that he liked or needed or wanted, and you're hesitant to say things like, well, he wanted that. I think it was more complicated than that. But there had to have been some reason why he didn't stop that, and I loved that this guy was open to represent himself in that way. That's what's so weird about the whole thing to me, is that you've got uh him saying this happened, she's saying this didn't was not her, this did not happen this way. um but yet he threw himself on the line, like he put it all out there, where he didn't look like the best guy. He had some stuff.
yeah, and it went well beyond her. There was definitely some buried trauma from past abuse and I think he put so much out there, so much that is deeply, deeply personal, and he was willing to allow that to be shown on a screen. And I think I think he had honest motives. I think he can reach some people that other people, wouldn't be able to reach, and maybe give some hope. And so I will say I was impressed by his willingness to be transparent and open and to share some things that were shocking.
Yeah, because so like while stalking is at the forefront of the series, the show was based on his experience of being groomed, raped, and assaulted by an older man who manipulated him early in his career when he was getting into the whole comedy routine. Ugh, it's just a lot.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. That really
It
shook me.
was.
Yeah, I
It was
struggled with
hard.
that for sure.
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of things that were relatable to people in this, and then it sort of got twisted when it was like he says, she says, and was it true and was it not true, and all this kind of stuff, because it touched people in a lot of ways on their own struggles, and maybe experiences they had had with people, or maybe they had made bad choices and thought, yeah, this is somebody who's not trying to say he's perfect, but he was trying to say in the story, I think, that what she was doing was too much. He recognized that she had stuff like he had stuff, and they say sometimes people will match up with their traumatic experiences, and I think that's what they were doing. But he couldn't take it. It was too much.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you have two broken spirits, two people they have a lot of baggage, and that does not always work out when you put them in the in a room together. Like in this circumstance, they were good for each other and really bad for each other, and just ended up being really bad for each other. And now they're still in court fighting that out, um, and they're still broken people. I don't know. It's really
Yeah,
sad.
I hurt for both of them, and I could find pieces of me, which is what you hope to find in the characters, and something, maybe somebody you knew, or an instance, or just the empathy that you have for humankind, and well, in all the characters, because we've talked about the two main actors, but the whole cast was great. So because you have, I hesitate to say secondary characters, because everybody on screen was amazing. I was
Yeah.
impressed, but like Terry, who was the trans woman who was portrayed by, is it Nava Mao? Like, I don't want to mess that name up. Nava.
I
I
mean,
looked I looked it up to say it right. Nava
that's the way
Mao.
I say it, but I mean, sounds good.
Okay, well, that's what Google says to say. So here we are. Um, but anyway, she's playing a trans woman, and she is in her real life, and that struck me too, because like everybody put it on the line, their vulnerabilities, and that was such a layered character in the show, and I really felt for all the people in their personal struggles. Even the victories were just fragile, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the character Terry, was probably one of my favorite characters because of the role she was playing. I mean, it had to be tough, and
Yeah.
you're acting out real life struggles, but she was, trying to be supportive, but it's almost like she could stand at a distance, excuse me, and see the dysfunction. You
Yes.
know, it was like, "I need to call this out," but, I mean, what do you do? Because he was dangerously playing in that arena where he shouldn't have been, and so she finally, a couple of times was like, "I have to wash my hands of it." I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I did too. And then his ex in this, the ex-girlfriend, who was just, they were sort of like mirrors. They were holding up the mirror like, what are you doing? Look at your life, and calling him out for who he
Yes.
was being. And he respected both people, and he wanted to be able to be in this new relationship. And it was all just too much for him to stop. He was so drawn to the flame. It's
Yep.
like he's saying to the police, this has got to stop. But then when it stopped, it's almost like withdrawal. Like he was withdrawing from drugs or something, and like, oh, I'm not getting that fix. He went so far as to re-listen to the messages that he was so upset about.
Yeah, I think maybe there's some part of him, and it stems from everything he went through, with the gentleman who was so manipulative, the one that groomed and later raped him. Um, it's almost like he felt like he just couldn't do any better, and so he just kept falling back into the mud. It was like
Yes.
a comfortable mud experience for him, and I that makes my heart hurt.
Yeah, and the character who was such a predator, I cannot think of that actor's name. It's escaped me. Please forgive me, people. But what a great job, because I thought, did this guy just like apologize when they said cut? I mean, because he was so creepy and yuck and just suave and smooth about it. Um, I was just so emotionally invested with all these people that I thought, stop hurting each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely, I mean, once you start watching, you just can't stop. And there are just so many twists and turns along the way um, that keep you on the edge of your seat. You just don't know what's going to happen. And then they pull everything together beautifully. I mean, it tells an entire story just in the beginning plot to the ending plot. I thought they did a fantastic job.
So I've got to interject a little bit of lightness because this stuff's heavy. And we've done some heavy stuff before. We've touched on that. And we've just touched on strange things in general. But, um, just to add a little bit of lightness to this. So did you like Martha, though? Did you not find her fun in a way? Did you not enjoy this bundle of energy?
I did. I loved her character, uh, and thought, "I could hang out with her for a minute," you know? Like,
One,
"What?"
1 minute.
1 minute, exactly, 1 minute.
Oh gosh, there were so many like sound bites. There's so many like little lines in this, and I can't do an accent to save my life, so I'm not going to embarrass you here. But so she would say these little things like picnic fun times, and then okay, I've never heard nipple said in an endearing way. Like she called him nipple.
Yes.
What in the world? Like I'll never hear that the same again. It was so sweet.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Something just completely endearing and childlike about
That's
her.
it. That's it. Childlike. But I mean, she could rip you to shreds.
Yes.
This was and he could be funny. Like he could be, I know he was trying to be funny with his comedy, but actually I thought he was funny when he was just like that subtle humor. That was funny.
Yes. Yeah, when he was trying, it was almost painful.
Yes, it was. It was like, yeah, very cringy, but he was giving us all. But yeah, there were a lot of those. Maybe that's where it came into the humor category. I don't know, heavy stuff. But as much as I loved her and I missed her when she was not on the screen because there was, when it went back into his past and you saw what all he'd been through, I was like, bring her Martha back.
Yes.
Bring Martha back. But she was a predator too. Like, isn't it funny how we make allowances for people who are doing the same behavior? Because there's the claim in this that she sexually assaulted him.
Right.
So I don't know. We do that though. If we like somebody, we're like,
Yep.
well, they had
Yeah.
reasons.
She can't help it.
She can't help it. Well, what about that? The creepy guy that we didn't make an allowance for that guy. Scary. So
Yeah. No, no excuses for him.
no. It
Um,
makes you think.
It does make you think. It really does, and, I don't know, do you know when this all took place?
I did. My brain has too many files.
Yeah,
My brain has too many files, but I'm not gonna say because it's gonna be wrong.
could be way off, yeah. But, I was thinking through just stalking in general and how much it has changed. We've shifted to online stalking and, I thought it was kinda odd. They were emailing back and forth, who emails?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't get the time in my head of exactly when this happened, but, I feel like, it's gotten so much easier with social media to look into someone's private life. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, and sometimes I don't protect myself as much as I should, because I am from a different time period, and you think you recognize, you'll see the scary coming, and then you'll avoid it. Don't go into that area, lock your doors, protect yourself. This is a different world, and I don't like to have to do all that. I don't want to have to overthink that.
I know. I don't want my kids to have to overthink that, but now it's, they're telling you to watch what's in your background. When you take pictures to post on
Yeah.
social media, there's a game that you can play. It's through Google Earth, but it'll literally show you like a snapshot of a street corner, but you won't be able to see, you know, anything that's telling, and you have to find it. And my kids play that, and they're like experts at it. They know to look and see
Mm.
what's in the background, what kind of trees, what time of year is it, what does the weather look like. There's just different little clues that they pick up on, and it's just very easy now.
Fun.
We're putting so many pictures out there for people to look through that it's easy to figure out where you're at.
That's scary. And so I have to chuckle a little bit when you say that because, I did a live series for not live series. I didn't have a series. I did a live event. I've made myself important here. I had a whole live series. Um, yeah, so I had a live stream weekly, in my home. And yeah, I didn't protect myself in that way. I'm sure, I just but yeah, it's a different world. And I don't really like that. I don't like that.
No, no, totally different world than
Yeah,
our go outside and play till the street lights come on. I
right?
miss those days.
I know. I know it. I do too. I don't know without, getting a whole lot of land and starting a whole cult. I don't know how we're gonna do anything about that. Hey, if we do, it'll be on here. It's gonna be
That's
right
right.
here. It's gonna be right here. Um, but yeah, I think stalking has changed. I think it's well, we started this with saying, well, what makes stalking? Isn't some of it just we did cyber sleuthing before. So we talked about that. That doesn't
Yeah,
have the negative connotation, but it's because it's the intention is meant to help, but you don't know how some people might use that.
right. You're using those same methods for good
Yeah,
or for harm.
yeah.
They're out there and they're available.
I don't know. This story is a little different too. Like, do you think that most people who are stalked um, feel empathy for the person who is stalking them? Do you think they have a connection? I don't know.
Mm. So kind of like virtual Stockholms.
Yes, that's what I thought of. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I think so. I think that a lot of times there's just a kindness, and maybe that is why women tend to be stalked more than men do. It's that, that tenderness, that empathy towards another human being. And we can get ourselves into some predicaments, just
yeah,
trying to be kind and patient and giving someone the benefit of the doubt. um, I think a lot of people do that too. You'll pull over on the side of the road because there's a baby carriage over there. Well,
yeah,
it's scary.
yeah.
Don't stop.
It is scary. Yeah, it is scary. I actually had that happen to somebody I knew one time. It was in the middle of the road in the middle of the night. And,
Oh,
it was two men. So they hopped out and went and checked. But it was set up for somebody probably more vulnerable. Um, but it's just creepy. What's the
hmm,
intention behind things?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I don't
yeah.
know.
There's
Gosh, there's
a
a
there's
lot.
a fine line. There's a fine line between, you don't want to scare your children into, not
Yeah.
being able to live a life, but also saying, "Hey, be guarded and keep your eyes up, and watch your surroundings." I think there's a fine line between the 2, and I don't know.
Yeah, this brought a lot of that kind of thing. This series did brought a lot of that to light, made you think, made me think a lot. And if it's somebody that you had liked originally, a friend, a past relationship, I think that complicates things too. It muddies the water because there is that soft spot. You did, he liked this person at first. He thought, they were they were just charming.
Right. Yep.
Golly, there's a lot, right?
There is a lot. So if you have not watched this series, go watch it. Do you remember how many episodes there are? I think there's
Oh
what, 3?
gosh. I think you're right. It's a shorter one.
Yeah, it's not super long, so you can binge it. I'm telling you, call in sick,
Yeah, do
order a
what you have to
pizza.
do. It's important.
Yeah, binge it. And then reach out to us because we want to hear from you. What did you think about this series? What was your take on the characters, but also what's happening right now with it? And it's in the news and it's going to court, and want to hear what your opinions are. So be sure to reach out to us and let us know. And come join us again next week. We'll be back with a brand new episode. Thanks for listening.
Well, listen, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, where we post exclusive content, contests, and so much more. And of course, you can keep up with our episodes through Podbean or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And as always, if you have a story that sparks curiosity or you have something that you want us to talk about, just shoot us an email to ourcuriouspodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.